One of the biggest trends in home dec right now is texture. Texture everywhere, especially on pillows. And today, we're going to make a pillow together that is just covered with texture and is easy and fun to make. This is your finished pillow. You're working with almost a paint by number fabric. So we have the lines to follow. We're going to add the chenille to this stripe. The kit's going to include the fabric, the backing, all the chenille you need to do the pillow, and lots of black for the edge and for the lines, and natural. Typically when I'm adding chenille to a project, I just use a single layer. It gives you plenty of texture and lots of bloom. But on this specific pillow, I want it to be especially fluffy. So I'm going to do a double layer of both the 3/8 and the 5/8 on my stripes. So to start, I'm going to cut enough chenille for one of those layers, which will be 4 yards of the black, then I have that ready to go. I'm also going to cut some 5/8, and I will just need to start with 3 yards of this. And they're just approximate generous yards that I'm cutting, and then I will go to my machine to start. I'm working with one color of thread on my machine. I've chosen the natural. It's really not going to matter. When it blooms, it disappears. So you will see the thread when I'm stitching on the black. I've got my 2 layers, one right on top of each other. And on the first outside black line, I'm just going to lap that right over this center. Set my machine for needle down position, and just stitch that right down the center. I think I will shorten that just a little bit. Now I'm going to move over to the next black that I'm going to be adding, and that's on a series of black stripes. I'm putting my black in between the first 2 black stripes. I'm just going to center it in between those stripes. And it's easy, then it's really easy to line up the edges of your chenille with the edges of the black. I am using a shortened 2.0 stitch length, even as short as 1.5, to stitch this down, making sure that I catch all the fibers. My next row of black is going to be 5 stripes over. I want to do it right in the center of these stripes. So I've actually marked that center one to make sure I get the right set of stripes. And this is going down the center of the stripes. And again, I'm doing it in between 2 lines. So it's easy to line the edges of my black up with the edges of the stripe. And the final one in this section, again, will be on in between these last two stripes. And you will do the same thing on the other end of your pillow, this section of stripes and the last stripe at the end. Now we'll go ahead and add the 5/8 inch natural to the natural stripes. I'm going to add a stripe here, another stripe here. I'll do 3 in the center, 1 on either side and 1 in the center, and then again the last 2 stripes. After stitching all the chenille down on the top of the pillow, sometimes the stitching will make your fabric pucker a little bit. So before I put my backing on, I'm just going to make sure that that I get these little puckers pressed out so I have a nice flat pillow top when I add my back. Now I'm ready to add the pillow backing to the pillow. I'm just going, because I'm adding chenille to the edge, I'm putting wrong sides together instead of right sides together. So I'm going to flip my pillow over right side down. This is the wrong side of the pillow. And I have 2 pieces prepared. Line up the back on one edge. Make sure we have a fold. The other fold goes on this end. Slapping about 3 inches. And then I'm just going to pin that together. Wrong side together. In the edge of the pillow top and the backing together, just 1/4 inch from the edge, I have set my foot for a 1/4 inch seam and just following the edge of my foot, and it doesn't have to be a small stitch length, it's just 3.0 stitch length. And I'm working from the top because I want to follow the edge of the pillow top, and if the backing is a little bit different, it's not going to matter. Then I can go back, once this is stitched down, I can go back and trim all my edges before I finish them with the 5/8 chenille. We want to have a nice straight edge on the pillow top before we finish it and add the chenille instead of binding. So I'm just going around the edge and making sure I have a nice straight edge with both the backing and but I'm using the pillow top as my guide as I go around and make that nice and straight. I have one more thing I do to my pillow tops that I learned from a gal that did just home deck pillows professionally to make her pillows. So many times when you see a pillow, it's got really pointy corners that just stick out, and it's not really a pretty shape. So what she taught me to do is, once this is trimmed, I'm going to each corner, and I'm going to take off 1/4 inch both directions on each corner and taper it out about 3 inches. So I'm going to go this direction, about 1/4 inch in, taper it down about 3 inches, and trim that. And you can see that that, you know, comes in a little bit. So when this pillow is finished, it's going to have a pretty corner. It's not going to have really pointy corners that stick out. So I'll go and do the same thing. If you don't have a serger, it's perfectly fine just to use the zigzag on your machine. That's what I'm doing with my pillow top today. And I've set it at the widest zigzag and fairly close together. And that's really close to the effect that you would get with a serger. And it's just, we just want to make sure the edges are finished so that they will not fray out when it's washed. So we're just giving a finish to that edge. You can see how that just, we're making sure that we've caught all the, that we have a wide enough zigzag to catch all the edges. And we'll just go around all four sides of the pillow top with the zigzag. Because I'm doing a double layer on the edge of the pillow, I'm going to cut two 2.5 yard pieces. And that'll give me the extra piece to make it a double layer. Starting on the back side of my pillow, I'm taking a double layer of the 5/8 and starting at one corner, and you want to lap it about 1/8 of an inch past that corner and 1/8 of an inch past the edge of your pillow. And just start it with your needle down. Now you can guide this. As you go around, I like to just turn it up a little bit and make sure I'm at about 1/8 of an inch past the edge, and then I can stitch down the center of the tape. Cut that 1/8 of an inch beyond the edge. Line up the corners. Double layer also goes on the top side, and then your raw edge is going to be encased between 4 layers of chenille. I'm just going to start at the corner, and because I extended it 1/8 of an inch on the back, I have that to follow when I stitch the top layer on it. So again, I have a double layer of the 5/8, and now I can just line up with that back edge, and I will automatically be 1/8 of an inch beyond the edge.